Terrific. So Andrew is the owner of Slapfish in California, and he's here to give us firsthand experience as to what's happening, what's not happening, and what should be happening. Welcome.
Well, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. Heck, where do you want me to start? On the what's happening or the what's not happening?
Start wherever you want to start, because I'm telling you, a lot of people are out there suffering.
Yeah,
I'm glad that you could join us to give us a firsthand account as to what's taking place.
Definitely. Well, thank you. Well, look, let's start here with some of the numbers. I think that's important. So, I mean, 20% of all restaurants in America are going to be shut down here in the next few weeks. I mean, that's what it's come down to. It went from 17 to 18, and now it's spiraling towards 20%. That's permanent shutdown. Okay. In California alone, there's 1.6 million people that are employed within the restaurant industry. 1 million of them are unemployed right now. So if you take California as just a microcosm for the United States, look at the devastation that that's created and that's caused. Now, why that's important is that these shutdowns are all unilateral. We get shut down, and that's it, right? It's not, hey, you're shut down, and here's how we're going to take care of you. I mean, it's not, here's the plan, here's how we're going to kind of get ahead of this. It's, you're done. You're shut down, right? And that's what I keep impressing upon everybody is they need to understand and recognize that those of us that work in the restaurant industry, right? For many, this is their first job. This is their only job, or they've got 2 or 3 jobs. When they get their job ripped out from underneath them, they might have, a marginal amount of savings, but then after that, there's nothing for them to do. And the unemployment benefits that are being distributed through a lot of these state agencies, these agencies are in such gridlock because of the fraud that's inherent in the misappropriation of funds that now these unemployment agencies have said, well, we're going to wait for the federal government to sign this new bill, and then we'll determine how much we're going to distribute. So there's no money coming in through the unemployment benefits, and these restaurant workers are quite literally left out on the street.
Rob, we can't hear you.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Andrew. What are you experiencing yourself in California, and what is the governor telling you that you can and you can't do, and what are you doing? Are you still open?
Yeah, so in California, they've banned all outdoor dining. You're relegated to pickup and delivery only. And that's important for a couple of reasons. Number one, California, 75 degrees, sunny and beautiful in Southern California. Number two, an LA County judge did determine that the LA County outdoor dining ban was refuted. I mean, it was overturned. They said there was no science proving that outdoor dining leads to any spike in coronavirus cases. Alternatively, there's a million other agencies that are leading towards spikes in coronavirus cases, specifically government offices at 8%, right, up in LA. But unfortunately, that particular outdoor dining ban by virtue of LA County is superseded by the state outdoor dining ban. So right now, Newsom has said no outdoor dining throughout the entirety of the state of California. We have remained open outdoors because it's my contention that by dining outdoors, you're actually preventing people from going and having, house parties and dinner parties. And that's where we know a lot of these cases are spreading. So We've remained open outdoors. We've defied the shutdown. We've, of course, received a ton of slack from, a lot of, angry Karens in the neighborhood, but we're slammed. Our sales are up 300%. We're slammed. We're keeping people healthy. We're keeping them safe, most importantly. And I think the most important picture that I need to paint here is that when you drive down Beach Boulevard, which is the main artery in Southern California, Huntington Beach, where we are, you drive past every single big box retail store. And as you pass them, it's just parking lots completely full of people. I mean, just sprawled out on top of each other. And when you get inside these big box stores, nobody's wearing a mask. They're all eating hot dogs, pizza, like at a Costco. They're shopping on top of each other. And then you get down to where the restaurants are and everything's shut down. I mean, it's complete lunacy.
Wow. Unbelievable.
Unintended consequences.
Go ahead, Heather.
Yeah, I think that a lot of times there are unintended consequences of overregulation in a lot of areas. That's kind of the libertarian position on a lot of things. I know I'm in Pennsylvania, and there was a case I think it was earlier in the pandemic, maybe in September, I believe. Some of the small business owners sued the governor here, Wolf, and they won because they argued that the shutdown was being unequally applied. It was certain businesses, small hair salons and horse stables, and I don't know if the restaurants were involved, but the basic argument was Whole Foods and the grocery stores are open and they're selling a lot of the same products that these small business owners were selling, whether it was candy or, pet supplies or whatever. So you're no more likely to get COVID in a Trader Joe's, presumably, than in a small business or vice versa. So, it was ruled to be unfair. And, I think it was unfair.
So, Andrew, I know that they're trying to work on a recall to recall Governor Newsom. While that's, I guess, working its way, you're also raising money to help fellow restaurateurs that are suffering during this entire shutdown. And I mean, this is like their lifeline, and a lot of people have taken their savings and put it into these businesses. And to come in and say, hey, we're going to take this away. And then in this so-called stimulus package, you guys aren't even thought about. It's like you weren't even an afterthought. So tell us about that.
Yeah. So I'll start with what we've tried to do. So I'm obviously stitched into the community here locally, and we've been really involved ahead of the pandemic, before the pandemic, with breaking the cycle of homelessness in Orange County. And we've been very involved in various foundations, et cetera. So when this shutdown occurred, I just naturally, having a relationship with so many people within the community, people started to reach out to me. Hey, Andrew, I'm in a real tough position. Do you have a job for me? Money, anybody who can help out, food, meals, etc. Not a lot of people asking me for money per se, but of course they know that I'm going to help out where I can, if we can even do it ourselves. Right. But what I realized was that, okay, these people need a leg up right now. They don't know when their unemployment benefits are going to come through. So we started our own GoFundMe campaign where we're raising money specifically for struggling restaurant workers who are either out of work or have had their hours significantly cut. And they really just need something to bridge them to the next step while they figure out how they're going to kind of get on their feet, or they're going to be able to feed their family. So we've raised already over $56,000, which we're going to be distributing and already have started to distribute in denominations of $500, $600, right? Heck, we'll go 601 just to beat the government, and really just to kind of help out our local community. In terms of what the government is doing to help us out, especially specifically within this bill, is that, yeah, you're right, we're an afterthought. I mean, and that's the reality of all of these big stimulus bills. I don't necessarily think people understood what was happening with this COVID relief bill, okay? You had the omnibus bill, which was over $1 trillion, and then you had the COVID relief bill, which was upwards of, $900 billion, which they combined into one large spending deal. And it was almost as if they were hijacking the coronavirus relief bill in order to push through all this other junk that we've seen strewn across social media, from the money to other countries to all the kind of gender stuff and et cetera. But regardless of what bucket it's going in, it's all just wasteful spending. And the coronavirus stuff has been actually forgotten about while all of the politicians are trying to jam through their special interests and lobbyist partners, requests and demands.
Can I ask something? I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Heather.
My understanding is that the new stimulus gave some boost to restaurants. Andrew, I know, I'm not asking it except, as a friend, I really feel for small business, and maybe I'm not understanding, I know a lot of restaurateurs feel that it's very insufficient. And I guess, my position is that maybe there is something of import in trying to mitigate for the next couple months because the vaccine's on its way. Is there anything that you think the government could have done to help you through these next winter months, the restaurant industry, or are you opposed in principle to the idea of any shutdown with aid? Is the issue strictly that you think that the shutdown is wrong, or do you feel like it's just not a realistic amount of help from the government to keep restaurants going temporarily while we mitigate for the next 2 or 3 months until the vaccine is here? Like, is there something that you would want to see from the government that they could have done?
Yeah, no, that's a great question, and I'll get granular on the actual bill itself. So of the over $300 billion that they say has been allocated specifically to small business and parts of the restaurant industry, over $125 billion of that comes in the form of employee retention credits, right? So what that means is that you file your Form 941, which is your payroll taxes. So I hire, they work, right. I pay payroll taxes, I file my 941, and then what I have to do is that then I file a Form 7200, which gives me a 50% rebate up to $10,000 on the employee's hours that they'd already worked, right? But the interesting piece of that is that, you know, if our businesses are shut down, then that $125 billion is going to sit in a coffer and it's going to get redistributed into the general fund. So the point is that in order for me to even be able to access that aspect of the small business relief, I need to be open. I need to be keeping people hired, right? So that's first and foremost. In regards to the PPP money, yes, there is a new tranche of PPP money. Now, the problem that I have with it is that it's being distributed through large banks, which are actually giving preference to some restaurants versus other restaurants. I think there needs to be a more streamlined mechanism by which this money can actually go directly to the businesses that are hurt. And what isn't taken into consideration are the businesses that have already been shut down. Unfortunately, my wife and I, we did lose all of our savings on a business that we opened up, a restaurant that we actually had to bankrupt. And you know, while we have the Slapfish restaurants, that's part of a franchise system. You know, we're kind of licensing that out, but our own restaurant did get shut down. We're not going to get any relief for that. That's 100% lost and gone. And the government is still coming after me for the sales tax from the previous quarter. They're coming after me for any of the other federal taxes that are due that obviously we didn't pay because of the shutdown.
Andrew, let me just ask you this. So the restaurant that you and your wife did own independently, was that shut down because of the virus and all the shutdowns?
Yeah, we tried staying open. We tried staying open for months, and we just couldn't afford it. We couldn't survive.
Have you spoke to the governor or any of your local representatives? What do they have to say? Are they doing anything?
Yeah, I mean, you know, the thing is this is so partisan, right? We're in Orange County, California, which is historically a more Republican area, and what happens because of that is that you get these battling partisan tribalized politics where the state is kind of fighting against Orange County, and then the Orange County Board of Supervisors is like, you know, they're taking this incredibly conservative stance, and then the state's taking an even harder left stance, and all of us small businesses get caught in the middle. Frankly, I never wanted to get involved in politics. All I wanted was just a free, kind of open means by which I could operate my business within a safe framework. So sorry, I'm babbling, but to answer your question, which I thought was a great question, is what could the government do differently? If there could be money that goes into local agencies that act not as policing agencies, right? Because the departments of health and environmental health, what's happening is they're coming in and they're being deputized to penalize us. You know, I'm trying to run a business. I'm trying to keep my schedule tight, my margins clean. I need somebody to come in and say to me, here's what you need to do. And we're going to provide you the stickers. We're going to provide you the plexiglass. We're going to set your restaurant up, right, as almost like sanitary consultants to help you operate safely. And then what we want to do is that we're going to cover the net. We're going to cover the difference between your net profit, right? I'm not asking for revenue. Just if we lose net profit, cover the difference in the net profit, cover my employees' loss in hours, which if we're open for takeout and delivery is only going to be a certain percentage less. And then maybe freeze rent and utilities. So it's kind of like it's a comprehensive, biodynamic business ecosystem where everybody maybe gives a little bit of flesh, and it doesn't all have to come down from the government.
Interesting. Because, I mean, to the lay reader, it's just, I mean, I read that small business is going to be able to apply for loans of 3.5 times their payroll, and if they spend 60% on payroll, then the loan will be forgiven. Well, yeah, I guess for the restaurants, it's 3.5%. For other small businesses, 2.5 times. Excuse me, the amount of payroll. So it just sounded like, well, you know, the government is trying maybe to give a little bit of a boost to the restaurants, but
why not just distribute that money directly to the restaurateurs with certain conditions outside of this whole, like, you know, this algorithm 3.5 payroll and this and that. I mean, most owners and operators are now trying to work on their own. I mean, you know, sadly, my wife and I mean, we're working 14, 15 hours a day. We've got 4 kids to try and keep the restaurants afloat, and we've had to actually let people go. We've been able to cover their unemployment benefits until they got it from the state out of our own pocket. And in some cases, that was months that we were covering it for our employees. But if our payroll is now going to be atrophied as a result of that, then the 3x on that is going to be a marginalized number as opposed to what needs to cover the retroactive sales lost as a result of the unilateral shutdowns.
It sounds like it's like the bottom line is if the government's going to help, it's not helping enough. It sounds like you're saying to actually help independent small restaurants make it.
Yeah. And my other question is, what about that 20% I was talking about? You know, what about the restaurants that have completely gone under, and a lot of those people are going to food banks right now? And I'm not saying that to be hyperbolic. That's really the truth.
Yeah, well, I read 17% of all restaurants have closed for good in America.
Yeah. I jumped it up to 20 because that was a September study.
What some people don't realize also that it's just not the restaurant owners that are losing money. The people that deliver the food, the sales reps, the suppliers, they're all in the same boat losing money. So it's just a domino effect throughout the entire restaurant industry. Is it not, Andrew?
Yeah, I mean, and that's the right. On the one hand, in a good economy, that's the beauty of the restaurant industry, right? Is that there's so many people that are integrated into its success, and then of course that has an equal and opposite reaction and downside. I think what we're seeing right now is that there are people who are able to get through, right? And going back to this fund that we started, it's really been heartwarming, and not to get too warm and fuzzy, but like, I know a lot of these independent freelancers who they're brokers or they're food distributors, and they work within the industry, and their sales have hurt big time, but they've said, look, we had a little bit of savings. And I mean, they're donating like $1,000 into our fund. And you know why all these people are donating is because they know that money's going to go directly to the end user. We're pushing every single penny through, and everyone wants to help a little bit here. So, I mean, look, the positive in the midst of what's happening right now is that you are seeing communities come together. I mean, it truly is bipartisan right now, I think, in the fact that nobody wants to see their neighbor struggle. Now, of course, we see these polarized extremes where you got you got the Karens of the world telling on the restaurants that are open and X,
It's
Y,
unbelievable. I mean, why would people want to tell on someone who's trying to make a living? I just don't get it. I mean, have we become such a society whereby we're looking out the window, we're driving around, people are literally driving around to say, hey, this person is open, let's call the police. Makes absolutely no sense.
And I think, and I always try and understand all sides of it. And I think, and I'm not condoning that behavior at all, because it has gone a little extreme. But let's look at a scenario, for example, in California. This is what happened. We talk about the unintended consequences of overregulation. A lot of the restaurants that got shut down because their outdoor dining was closed and they stayed open, they said, well, I'm getting fined for staying open, so screw it. I'm going to open indoor dining. And frankly, in California, I don't think we should necessarily take that risk, because we have the opportunity to dine outdoors. It's beautiful. So let's not push the limits. Okay. But now what's happened is people say, well, I'm in trouble anyway, so I'm going to open indoors. And a lot of these people are coming by and they're seeing hordes of people indoors, and maybe they have an uncle, a brother, a grandfather, a parent, somebody who's passed from COVID, and it's visceral, right? It's like we're the enemy now. And it's almost as if the government has created these regulations which have pushed people against each other by virtue of these emotional responses.
Mm-hmm. So that's the reason why they're going out. They're saying this is, now again, I had asked you earlier, and I don't know if you answered the question. Have you spoken to the governor or any of your local representatives? Have they come? Have they said anything?
Was it Lorena Sanchez has reached out to me? She's the rep from South Bay area. It's funny. I'll be honest. The majority of the people who have reached out to me have been Democrats. Really? I have gotten some shares and retweets, etc., on the right side of the aisle. But other than that, the people who have reached out to me now, Newsom's not going to reach out to me at all.
And what are the Democrats saying? What are they saying?
We're going to do everything we can to, increase it.
So it's not. It's just the talk, the regular rhetoric as to we're going to try to do everything, but in actuality, they're not doing anything. Andrew, do you have something you want to say?
Well, I was just going to say, I think what bothers Andrew and a lot of business owners is the hypocrisy that we see. Like airlines are allowed to pack airplanes full. I seen on Andrew's timeline, he said he was up the road at Costco and it was packed, and that's all right, but that they're not allowing people to dine outdoors. What exactly is the lockdown measures like right now in California?
Totally locked down outside of selective industries, right? So when they did overturn that outdoor dining ban in LA, one of the health commissioners, and I don't know the exact position, so don't quote me on this, but somebody up in the health system, he said, well, the truth of the matter is we want to ban outdoor dining because of the optics. If I drive by and I see all these people dining outdoors, it goes against the nature of our lockdown, our stay-at-home order. But that's BS, because the entire entertainment industry is exempt. All big retail is exempt. Malls, they're exempt. So you have these industries that selectively are chosen, winners and losers, to remain open. So there's no optics of people being indoors or outdoors, right? If we were under a strict stay in your home lockdown measure and I happen to have my restaurant open and people are outdoors partying, okay, I can understand that logic. I won't agree with it, but I can understand the logic. But I mean, you know, it's like we just keep getting this spin central.
Mm-hmm. And, you know, there was something too, isn't there, about the breweries? The craft brewers are suing Newsom now because they're subject to more regulation than the wine makers. So it does seem very uneven. I mean,
Yeah.
Why people are going to get COVID drinking beer but not wine? I mean,
It's the bubbles.
It's unbelievable. Do you think that they'll be successful in replacing Newsom?
I do think that the 1.5 million signature threshold will be reached. Now, as to the success of replacing Newsom, I mean, you know, it's California, and some of his own have turned on him. But I think the reason a lot of his own have turned on him is because he put the spotlight on a lot of the hypocrisy of other leaders. So, you know, they were like, hey, come on, we're trying to break our own rules here, and now you're getting busted. Now everybody's looking at us. Right. I don't think necessarily turned on him because they fundamentally disagree with his politics.
So we have an audience here. What do you want to say to our listeners, to our viewers, just in case some politicians are watching? Every so often they'll come in, they'll have spies listening to us. What do you want to say? What do you think is the resolution or the answer to all of this?
Well, first and foremost, I want to see politicians take some pay cuts, you know, if they can, right? I want to see them understand the pain that we're all facing on Main Street. And secondly, you know, I don't want them to be communicating across tweets. I want to see them go hit the streets, socially distance, wear a mask if that's what you got to do, but come and talk to us personally. You know, it's like so much of this is lost in the fact that when you talk face to face with somebody, it's a completely different situation, scenario. I want them to start hearing and reading the emails that I'm getting, hundreds of them, about people who can't feed their children. We're not talking about kids, you know, looking for beer money, living in their mom's basement. We're talking about real people, real families, mothers, fathers, etc.
Absolutely. Well, Andrew, we really appreciate you coming on and sharing your story with us. And where can our listeners and our viewers follow you on Twitter, as well as come to one of your restaurants?
Chef Gruel on Twitter. The restaurants are actually, if you look at slapfishrestaurant.com, we've got beautiful independently owned franchise, you know, all independent operators across the country. You can see the locations on there. And yes, swing on by anytime. Come in, say hi. We'll do an air high five, and I'll give you some deliciously fresh seafood.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Yeah, I've been checking out your Twitter page and Instagram, and the food looks amazing.
Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. God bless, and all the best. Good luck.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, folks, there you have it. Directly from the source, someone who's actually going through and having to experience the shutdown and how it's affecting the different restaurateurs and the businesses.